A lot of us don't like how we sound. We cringe at our recorded voice. We worry about our accent and how it might make us sound less credible or less worthy of being listened to. Well, our guest today, Caitanya Tan, or Cait, knows this feeling intimately. As an actress, host, voiceover artist, and content creator with over 200,000 followers on TikTok and on Instagram, her voice is the tool that she's built her career on, yet it's also the thing that she had to constantly adjust, explain, and even at times defend. So in this conversation, we explore what it means to represent your people, why Singaporeans often feel invisible in global media, and how embracing your voice, literally and metaphorically, can become your most powerful creative tool. Let's dive in. Every Edit's History interview runs about 60 minutes, but only 2/3 make it into the final cut. The rest, the 33% that I left behind, actually lives in the Annotations newsletter. This is where I share the insights and step-by-step strategies that happened after the mic was turned off. Think of this as your companion guide to the episode. You can subscribe to the Annotations newsletter at CherylLau.com/email. Again, the link is CherylLau.com/email.
Cait.
Hi.
Hi. How many people compliment you on your voice on a weekly basis? I want to start there.
On a weekly basis, online or in person? Well, actually, it has to be online because I don't leave the apartment. So I honestly don't know. I mean, like probably every video there'll be someone. It's so bizarre to me, Cheryl. It's so bizarre to me because it's just my voice. Right. Sometimes I'll scroll through social media and see my own video and go, oh my gosh, it's me again. And I literally yell at the phone, turn off the sound and say, shut up, because I'm done with it. Like I edit my voice. I know what I'm saying. You know, it's too much.
But how do people describe your voice? Because for me, people say, oh, your voice is so calming. But what words do people use to describe you?
Delicious.
What does that
My
mean?
voice, not me, my voice. Delicious. Like, I guess, you can hear my voice tell you about the most delicious laksa in town. Crisp, juicy patty between two sesame seed buns. You know what I mean? It's like the food voice. So people call it a delicious voice. Buttery sometimes. But I beg to differ. I don't think I have a buttery voice. I think I have a very full, grounded voice with gravitas.
As a actor,
Host, voiceover artist,
content creator.
You did that well. That's not easy to
I watch
say
your
that.
stuff. Thank you. As someone who does all of these things, and your voice is at the core of a lot of your work. One observation that you talk a lot about is how a lot of Singaporeans are uncomfortable with their accent, especially if they're overseas or talking to a foreigner. And it's because they're embarrassed by it. So I'm really curious for you in your line of work where your voice is the common thread among all of it. Is there ever this pressure to sound more international or like neutral or less Singaporean?
Yes, I think because, in any line of work, you have a client brief, right? So whatever I sound like depends on what the client brief says. Now, the more accents I can do, the more work I'll have. And also, you think about it, if I can be sold in the US, we have 50 states of loading. If my voice can be used in the UK, there's many counties as well, right? So I tend to do a general, a neutral Singaporean or neutral British or neutral American, because if they can utilize the voiceover for more countries, that's basically where I make money.
Right now, in this moment, how would you describe the accent that you're using right now?
I'm trying really hard not to code switch into yours, which is Canadian. It sounds American too. Very similar, right? It's neutral Singaporean. So I would say like acrolecto Singaporean.
Okay.
Right? Standard British English sentence structure.
Yeah.
With Singaporean accent.
I think I can hear it. I think.
Very neutral, right? This is the broadcaster voice, basically.
How did you first know that you have this knack for accents and like speaking in so many different tones?
But I studied it. I went to musical theatre school. I have a degree in musical theatre, and we have to learn phonetics simply because a lot of musicals are written in Broadway accent, which is American, right? And then there's also the West End accent, which is the English accent. They need to rhyme. And if you are trying to rhyme an American written musical in a Singaporean accent, it just does not work.
You were taught to practice different accents. But like I know I've heard you say in an interview that I've never been told to do a Singaporean accent, or we were never told to learn that.
As an actress.
Right.
For screen. Yeah, no, I've always had to learn other people's accent.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said, oh yeah, let's do a Singaporean accent. I'm like, what? You know, people ask for an Indian accent. Again, what is an Indian, generic Indian accent? There's so many regions, right? What is they want a Japanese English accent, a Chinglish or Chinese English, Hong Kong English accent, or a Korean English accent, right? But like nobody's ever asked me for a Singaporean English accent. And if they do, they want me to sound like this. They want me to sound like Lee Kuan Yew. But Lee Kuan Yew is specific. It's very specific. But like when I say Lee Kuan Yew, I mean an acrolectal, which means the sentence structure doesn't deviate from standard British English, but we retain our Singaporean lilts, intonation, inflections.
What are your thoughts on this? How your accents as a Singaporean, it doesn't get
representation.
Yeah, representation. I was going to say recognition, but I was like, that's not the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Representation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we're young. That's why my content on social media is my content on social media. The reason we don't get enough representation is because we don't represent ourselves, right? Why don't we represent ourselves? Because colonialism, right? When the British ruled, they made us learn the language, and we are measured against how well we speak their language. But we also all come from very different backgrounds. So while I'm grateful for English being the lingua franca, the language that bridges communities or people of different ethnic backgrounds with different ethnic languages, or, you know, wherever we come from, we bring our forefathers' language to Singapore, which is, to me, a primarily immigrant city, city-state, country, republic, whatever. But we needed a language that we can communicate with each other, and English was it, because we were colonized by the British. Because it is seen as the language for work, the lingua franca that connects, we try to speak English the way the English would, because the expectation is it's better, it's more correct, because it's their language. But we forget that through the years, we also develop our own accent, our own language, Singlish, Singaporean English. And all of this flavor that we add to the English language is the result of having to learn the English language, but also having the roots that we have. But because the standard is still British English, we're embarrassed of it.
You know what I really want to know is, when did speaking well stop becoming about communication and started becoming a quiet way we measure each other? I'm a Singaporean actor, host, voiceover artist and content creator, basically a professional explainer of things. And for years, locally and internationally, I've had to explain why I sound like this to foreigners and to my own people. And frankly, I'm quite sick of it. Every country has a version of this, the people who speak proper English and the people who don't. And it was never really about language. It's about something deeper. So in Singapore, we have this divide, right? Team Good English, who sound polished, and Team Good Singlish, who sound like home. And the way I see it, one opens doors, one keeps us rooted. But sometimes people on both sides use language to gatekeep belonging. Because English is our lingua franca, the bridge between communities, we started associating it with success, and in the process made some people feel like they weren't good enough. Cue the tension. You think you're better than us? But let's be real, someone from Team Good English probably corrected their grammar one too many times. And here's the thing, our need to speak grammatically accurate English is just as real as someone else's need to sound like their community. So what's the point? It was never about good or bad English. It was always about power, belonging, and the fear of not being taken seriously. English around the world has become this status symbol, a way to say, I'm smart, I belong. But here's the thing, right? Fluency doesn't equal intelligence. Accent doesn't equal ability. So yeah, I don't know where we got the idea, but the real flex isn't speaking perfect English. It's making people feel seen, heard, and respected in any language. So let's stop using English like a status check and start using it for what it was meant to be used for, and that is a bridge. I would drop a mic, but I don't have a mic to drop. And I don't want to clean up glass, so thanks for watching. I hope that made sense. Having coffee and deep thoughts. Ouch.
When I talk to other aspiring podcasters or even some seasoned podcasters who speak with a non-British or non-American English accents, they will always say to me, you know, Cheryl, like your English sounds so good, you speak so well, but I can't. They want to start a podcast, they want to create content, but they don't even let themselves speak on the camera, on the microphone, because they feel some type of way about their speaking or their accents.
You're talking about Singaporeans trying to start a podcast, is it?
Yes. Or even some people who have immigrated to North America, let's say. So they're maybe born in China or Hong Kong, and they immigrated to Canada. When I talk to friends or people there and they want to start a podcast too, they'll see Asian Americans or Asian Canadians and be like, oh, maybe it's possible for me. But then once they speak on the mic, then they feel a lot more insecure. What would you say to someone who is in that position?
Represent your people. You're trying. Represent your people. I think for years, I the idea of representing my people sounds so big, and you know, in a society, or like many societies have this idea of tall poppy syndrome, right? Don't fart higher than your ass, right? So, right?
I've never heard that
like,
variation.
If you never try, that's French variation. I found that so fascinating when I was living in Paris. But yeah, if you've never tried, you will never exceed where you were previously. You know, and who's stopping you? And so that's why I decided maybe I could try. And if I fail, I fail. What's the worst that could happen? I get cancelled. I guess I haven't gotten cancelled yet. But I'm just going to keep trying, right? Because now social media is like such a booming industry, economy, and it goes. The video travels if it does well. And the more people hear my accent, the more they can be like, what the hell accent is? Actually, she makes sense. Wait, I can understand her despite this difference in how she sounds than how my people sound. I wonder where that's from. And then they go to my page and then they realize, Singaporean, I've never even heard of this place, right? Some people would never have heard of Singapore. But now they will. I think that a lot of my content speaks to not only Singaporeans in Singapore, but Singaporeans outside of Singapore, because now they have a way to explain us, right? I've only had years of having to do this. And now they can rely on me. So in representing, this is how I can represent. A small segment of Singaporeans living overseas can share this content whenever someone's like, why do you sound like this? Wait, give me your number. I send you this link. You know, so now they can do that, right? So representing yourself is so important.
You said, I think, the word flavor just now. Like you said that this is the flavor that you bring to your content. I find that as someone who's now living in Singapore, I'm trying to diversify a lot more of my podcasts, the things that I listen to or follow on YouTube, for example. And I love listening to like podcasts that are local and like hearing the host just like embrace how they normally speak or how their mannerisms. It's just so interesting. And I also find myself adapting to a lot of the Singlish words here. For example, like one of my most used phrases now is, oh, so how?
I love that.
Like I'm like,
I say it as much as I can. Also, walao eh.
I haven't said that one.
No, to every time I'm in some other country, instead of the word that also could mean walao eh, I just say walao eh. And they stare at me like, what did you say? I'm like, it's a Singaporean expression for what the hell. People are so excited to learn this random word, and even if they say it wrong, I forgive them because they tried. Like that's how That's how we do it, right? And I love that you're watching, podcasts from our part of the world. I think a lot of Singaporean podcasters, they're very Singaporean, right? So it takes a bit of getting used to because you don't know contextually, culturally, what certain things mean. But it's through exposure that you understand better.
And I feel like specifically for podcasters or content creators, I feel like there's a lot of people who appreciate when people lean into who they are because it just feels like more sincere. I can't quite articulate it into words. It's like
authentic.
Or like, or like a je ne
it's the
sais quoi.
flavor. It is really embracing who you are, and maybe you water it down so that more people can understand, but only for the sole purpose of sharing more of who you are by slowly teaching people that difference is to be celebrated, not feared or shunned, And if it is understandable, that's the whole point of communication, right? That's the whole point of why I code switch. Because once they don't write me off as someone they don't understand, they'll start listening to me. And then I can say, walao eh, and they'll be like, oh, what does that mean? Because they know that if they ask me in perfect English, I'd be able to explain it to them. Knowing both sides of the coin is very helpful for me and makes me a good representative of Singapore, whether in person when I'm traveling for work or online. Because when someone's like, what does that mean? They know that if they ask the question, they'll get a logical answer that they can understand.
Right.
Right?
I want to shift gears a little bit because as someone who is visible on the internet, one thing that I'm always curious about from people I follow, like you, I'm like, what are all of their insecurities? So the question I actually really want to ask you is, what was one thing that most recently you were insecure about?
Most recently? Oh, that's very simple. Like every day I'm insecure about one thing at least, right? Whether or not I'm going to make the deadline that I set for myself. Actually, one good one is imposter syndrome. Like I would edit a video, I would like script it. I'd spend hours researching and then scripting it and then like, okay, no, this is good enough to explain the concept that I have in mind, right? And then I'll go film it and then I'll edit it and then I'll be about to post it and then go, oh God, what if it sucks? What if I misrepresented us, Because that's the weight I put on myself now, right? It's what if I misrepresent my people? I mean, I guess a very big cultural thing is don't let your family or your people lose face, right? Sometimes I think about that. Sometimes I think it's fine because everybody makes mistakes. And I'll bounce back from this and I'll explain about it. If someone's like, Cait, that's terrible, I'll be like, oh my God, sorry. In the moment, that was what I thought was. And who can't relate to that? Nobody's perfect. Would you like to be judged for something you made a mistake on? No. And if I can be vulnerable enough to share that, then people will start to feel like they're okay to do that too. That's another way of representing, right? Another aspect of being human.
To your point about taking responsibility, if things don't land the way you wanted it to land or you said the wrong thing, I think that's something that a lot of creators, podcasters, entrepreneurs are so scared of. Like they're so scared that they're going to mess up that they don't even do anything at all. What was one thing
That's
for
the price of entry.
Has there ever been anything where you completely missed out on an opportunity because you let your thoughts get the best of you?
Probably more than once. Probably more than 10 times, I'm sure. But you just let it go at some point. You realize this is going to happen so many more times in your life. The best thing to do is just let it go because, you can't let it bog you down.
Right.
You need that abundance mindset, you just got to keep going, right?
Was there like a specific moment when you realized like you have that mindset or like that thick skin or resilience in you?
My dad would say, if you never try, you never know. And this stems from, oh my gosh, I think I've actually shared this in another podcast before. But I remember lying to my dad about going out with my friend somewhere, right? He's like, don't go too far. I went too far. I told him I was going near that. Basically, I lied to him. And then I came back, my dad knows. Man, parents, they always know. Why do they always know? Anyway, he knew. And so he said, why did you lie to me? And I was like, well, if I asked you if I could go to this place instead of that place, you'd say no. And he said, well, yeah, but there could be a 1% chance, but you lied to me, so there's no chance. In fact, I'll take off the next chance. Next chance you also don't get. And so my dad's philosophy is always, even if the chance is slim, at least you have a slim chance.
That sounds like, I don't know, like I feel like that would be a very profound moment, I feel like.
Yeah. My dad is full of those. I think I lived by my dad's philosophy without knowing it. And then, when I asked myself, why do I think like this? And I remember the moment that my dad was mad at me, sat me down and said, listen, you can't do this, or like, you have to think about it like this, or, pivotal moments in my young childhood life, and my dad just giving me the quote and leaving it with me. I'm like, what am I going to do with this now? Like, 15 years later, I'm like,
It's like a quote you would like tattoo on yourself.
No,
I
you
feel
would,
like.
I mean, yes, absolutely. Like, only do what you love. That way, you'll never work a day in your life. I mean, you can see it both ways, right? You'll never get a job, but I create my jobs. And I love them. Everything is like, what am I supposed to learn from this, right? Also, you either win or you learn. You never lose. And you never fail. So find the lesson. Everything my dad taught me was about finding the next step. The other thing was, a problem doesn't go away until it's taught you what you needed to learn. Listen, these are not my dad's quotes, right? He's read a lot of books and then he's basically curated them and he's imparted them to me and my brothers. Because now whenever I hit a snag, and it's not that I don't have problems, I have problems all the time. But I always go back to that. I go back to the part where my dad said, the problem will not go away until you find the lesson. And my brain just keeps going, okay, what am I meant to learn from this? What am I meant to learn from this?
I feel like that way of thinking has been a very helpful frame of mind when you actually started doing TikTok or being on the internet, basically. But like, what is something people would misassume, like wrongly assume about your growth on these social media platforms?
It would be the way I look. They just throw you into the same basket as, oh, but she's good looking, that's why, right? I mean, someone did a little video about my growth once, Dago Yaki on TikTok. He said, we need to talk about the insane growth of Cait of all trades.
I've seen that TikTok.
Got sent that. He said it boils down to me using my unfair advantages, right? And he's so right. If you have an unfair advantage, whether that be nepotism or good looks or like you speak well or your voice is nice, why wouldn't you use that? It's your gift. My dad always said, find your gift and then exploit the hell out of it. Now, mind you, I don't know what I look like because it's just my face. The same way I don't know what I sound like because it's just my voice. And in Asian culture, you never tell your child that they are good looking because you don't want them to grow a big head. At least that's how I grew up. I understand now what people see when they look at me and why they would come to this conclusion, one that I don't even know about myself. Or rather, I'd rather not focus on because I have so much more to offer. So I think the biggest misconception is that I grew like this because of the way I look. It's offensive to me. I've never really, I understand and I don't shy away from it, but it's not exclusively why my channel grew. It's because my content is different than other people, not by virtue of trying to be different, but by virtue of accepting exactly who I am and embracing that.
That lands really well with me because I think the reason why I reached out to you in the first place was because, you have very interesting like topics and like points that you discuss and unpack in your short form content, especially. But I was also creeping like a few of your long form interviews that you did on other podcasts. And I was like, oh my gosh, Cait is really smart. Like, I was like, wow, this was a really interesting conversation. And I wanted to have you in person and hear it in my ears, like eardrums in real time.
I'm very biased. I don't know. Never mind.
Okay, but like...
No, but thank you. Thank you for seeing me and saying that about what you see. Like it means a lot.
I can see why some people might just misassume some things, but if they actually took the time to check out some of your other content or like think deeper about your content, I think they can see so many layers. Like thought process that like goes on in your head as you're creating that piece of content. Because to grow to that audience size, you can't just ramble off per se, but like you need to be thoughtful about how can you craft that piece of content so it does well and it reaches people. So there's a lot of thought that goes behind the scenes of creating content that not only resonates, but actually performs well.
Yeah, there's a science behind creating content. I think a lot of people just assume, oh, it's so easy to watch. It must be because she's easy to watch.
How much time per week do you spend on content? Like, what does your week in a life look like?
Oh, wow. First of all, I don't know because my team adds things to the calendar when they see a sliver of time. Cheryl, you know what I'm talking about.
Cheryl, your manager.
My manager. If there's a slot, fill it up is her motto. Because nobody needs to rest or anything, Cheryl. And we have a really good working relationship.
I'll timestamp this part and send it to Cheryl.
Yeah, send it to her. You can also like post it, no problem. A week in my life looks like waking up between 5 to 6 a.m. every morning, a cup of coffee, get ready, like brush teeth and everything. And then, I mean, did you need that sort of detail? No, but I work out after that. And then as I'm working out, my brain is going because I'm already awake. And then when I'm done, I write it down. And if it's curious enough to explore, then as I'm stretching, I will research.
What time of the day
Or
is
script.
that?
That's like about 7 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
so
we're still in the morning.
I hit the ground running, basically. And then the aim is to get a video out before 10 a.m. because then my team comes in and then they hound me forever, endlessly, perpetually. And I can't think anymore. So I really, really relish the time in the morning where I get to think and I get to create something out of a thought that pops to mind. And that's really, to me, very satisfying. But if I wake up late, then I don't laugh. That's when I'm like, that's fine, Cait. You do this every day anyway. You can take a break.
What tech tools
Yeah.
do you use to film
Phone.
and record? Phone. Just your phone.
Phone.
Not
I
even
know.
like a fancy camera. Just the phone. Oh.
It's possible now. I want to do everything with my phone. And then I don't have to bring my cameras. I invested in cameras, but I've never used them. I mean, I use them, but after a while, I was like, oh my God. First of all, so big, the file size.
Yeah, these files that I'm going to get after this
my
recording.
gosh. Massive. But now my phone is taking all the footage. I'm editing on my phone.
Wow.
I know. It's possible now. So like the barrier to entry is so low, but the price is the audacity.
Okay, I'm clipping this part out.
Ooh.
That was a good line.
And quote Cait.
That was a good quote.
Oh my gosh.
I want to loop back to earlier in the conversation when we talked about accents. So I don't know if you've heard of this Reddit thread, but it's about Singapore podcasts. And there is this thread. It's called Why Are Singapore Podcasts and Podcasters So Cringe? And it's
Actually heard of it.
yeah. And it was like very, because some of my friends in Singapore who are like Singaporean
Yeah.
have sent it to me and they're like, oh, have you seen this? And I wanted to hear your thoughts. Like when you hear of this Reddit thread title, like what are your immediate thoughts about it?
Who's writing this?
I don't know.
Like a Singaporean?
I would assume so.
Are you ashamed of us? Are you ashamed of yourself? See, people are going to hate me for saying this. But the truth is, some of us are. Why? Because people don't understand us when we speak Singlish, correct? But we don't represent ourselves, correct? So then the finger points back at ourselves for not representing ourselves and we can't take that accountability. So we have to point the finger at someone else and blame them for why Singapore sucks. Because the podcast is cringe. There's a slice of pie in the world for absolutely anything you can think about. I've learned that firsthand. And that's why I try not to judge because you know what? I've met so many people with the weirdest business ideas that have a market for it that makes them a millionaire. A millionaire. Right? And this is crazy that these people are trying, these podcasters in Singapore are trying to be podcasters and our own people are pulling us down lah. But why would you do that? What have you done in your life that is worth raving about?
Oof.
You know, so this reminds me of a story when I was still a student at musical theater school, and I did a show, and everybody came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, you sang so well. You're such a great performer. You look so beautiful. You're such a great performer, Cait. Oh my gosh, wow, I love it when you hit that high note." I was so happy. I was like 18, 19, right? And then one of my teachers, also my confidant and my mentor, I love her. She's my improv teacher. Her name is Alison Lester. I went to her and I said, "Alison, everyone thought I did so good. Oh my gosh." She's an American woman from Washington, D.C. Now she's living in England with her husband, and she's a writer. And I went to her and I said, "Alison, I loved it. Everyone thought I did so well." She smiled and calmly said, "I wouldn't take compliments from people I don't take criticism from." It's like a slap in the face, but a good one. Because imagine the amount of time someone tells me what I thought was a bad idea, and just by virtue of them saying it, I stop doing it. I would do such disservice to myself. It would be such a disservice to the person that I can potentially become because of something someone said. They don't pay my rent. They don't buy me food. They don't watch my content. They don't even follow me. They add nothing to my life. And yet, I let what they say affect what I'm about to do next. We have to think about this one. Never take to heart someone's compliment that you wouldn't also take criticism from. It's so important. Because otherwise you'll never do anything with your life. You're going to be so scared of what someone else will think. When the truth is they have nothing to do with what you're about to do with your life.
I'm like, I can feel like my jaw, my muscles in my face like beaming right now, because that was a good like kick that I think some people needed to hear. And I'm like, what question could I possibly ask after this one to like close this out? I'm like feeling very full, like full right now. Yeah, it's just one of those moments where like you just want to like bask in the feels, like
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what else I want to ask you.
What do you, and why are you feeling? That's a good question. Why are you feeling the feels?
You know, because with every conversation that I go into with a guest, I'm always thinking, I wonder what kind of like key highlights I want to pull out from the conversation. And sometimes it might take like a lot of different questions to get at that, oh, like this is gonna be the key takeaway. And I think we just hit it. And I'm like so fulfilled, because I'm like, that is the message I really hope this episode, this conversation will communicate to the listeners. And I feel like I've done my job. I'm so happy. Thank you.
I love that. I feel that same sort of satisfaction when people tell me that, you know, they've benefited from something I've said. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to feel like that as well by being on this podcast.
Cait, thank you so much for being here. Where can the people find you, and or how can they work with you?
You can find me at Cait of All Traits, not trades. That's taken, and she won't give it to me. But Cait of All Traits on TikTok and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Cait, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
To our listeners, thank you as always for being here, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Edits History featuring Caitanya Tan, or Cait. Before we close out, let's recap 3 of my favorite takeaways from this conversation. Number 1, your accent is not something to fix. So many of us have internalized the idea that the way we speak is wrong or unpolished. But the truth is, your voice, your real voice, it's part of the reason why your content and work is resonant with your people. And Cait shows us that it is possible to build a career because of how you sound, not in spite of it. And that when you stop trying to sound like someone else, you start building trust, right? Not just with yourself, but with others. And for me, I worked with podcast clients who have delayed launching their podcast for months because they feel like they didn't like how they sound on the microphone. Right? I've also spoken to many Asian creators, both in Asia and abroad, who feel like their accent disqualifies them from creating meaningful content. They've absorbed the idea that if they don't sound like a polished British presenter or an American tech bro, then no one will take them seriously. But the truth is, your accents, your lived experiences, and how you embrace your natural characteristics, that is going to help you grow as a content creator and entrepreneur. Because the more you own how you sound, the more credible and compelling you actually become. Number 2, representation starts with individuals who dare to be seen as themselves. So, representation doesn't always look like a big campaign or a seat at a certain table, but oftentimes it starts quietly with one person choosing to show up, speak up, and say, "This is who I am." We can't just wait to be chosen, but we have to choose ourselves. And sometimes that act of courage, right? Posting that video, recording that episode, speaking in your own cadence, that is the first step to reshaping what representation can look like. And, as someone who didn't grow up seeing podcasters or creators or speakers who look like me or sound like me, I think now in present day, when people discover my work or my podcast, they'll sometimes say, "I didn't even know someone like you existed in this space." And while a part of me is flattered to hear that, another part of me does still think, why do we feel like we're the exception, right? So this is why we need more people who are willing to create from where they stand, not where they think they need to be in order to be accepted. And every time you record a podcast episode, publish your perspective, or just speak honestly in your own voice, you are opening a small door for someone else to walk through. And number 3, you don't need fancy gear just to be heard. You just need the audacity to speak. So right now, you don't need a studio or fancy production setup to be taken seriously. For Cait, she built her platform using just her phone and a whole lot of audacity. Yes, that meant over 200,000 subscribers or followers on TikTok and also on Instagram, all with content shot and edited on her phone. For me, some of my most popular and meaningful podcast episodes were recorded in my bedroom on a $100 mic with zero soundproofing, right? And back in 2020, I was doing an audio-only show. Those episodes weren't fancy, but they were honest, and that's what people responded to. And to this day, some of those early scrappy episodes are still the ones with the highest downloads on my show. How incredible is that? So if you've been waiting to feel ready or waiting for the right gear, I hope this conversation reminds you that the real barrier of entry isn't the tech, but it's the audacity to speak. And when you can find that within you, that's when everything can change. Sounds good? Awesome. Let's get to work. If you enjoyed the episode, well, there's more where that came from. For every episode, I share the bonus insights, strategies, and frameworks through the Annotations newsletter. It is designed to deepen your thinking and help you take action. You can subscribe to the Annotations newsletter at CherylLau.com/email. Again, the link is CherylLau.com/email.